What is up, everybody? I am sitting down with Michelle Berman Mikel. This is the first official one-on-one interview I've done with Michelle on the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel. Uh, I did a walk and talk with Kevin Watson and Brian Covey in Nashville several weeks ago, and they were just singing your praise and saying what an amazing person you are. I also got to spend some time at the Mastermind Summit last week. So I'm really looking forward to getting to know you better and also talking about the exciting book you have coming to market.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Dave. Thank you. It kind of feels very full circle for me to come back and get some time like this with you. So I just appreciate you having me.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. So Kristen Messerly and I just last week published the halftime report. Today it is July 3rd, so we're at halftime in 2025, and one of the things that's become more and more clear to me is that if you're a mortgage professional and you're not using I think there's a problem, and if you don't have a personal brand, I think that's another problem. What are some of your thoughts on the importance of both using AI and having a personal brand?
Yeah, I mean, I use AI every day. I'm not one of those people that is hey, don't let this help support you write things, because I think the reality is we need it to help us expedite things. And I also think the narrative is what we feed it. So I think AI becomes dangerous if you don't allow or create the space to feed it. But if you do the things you need to do so that the narrative that ChatGPT or any of the other, softwares produce on your behalf, right? If you put the time and the energy into feeding it the right things where it really does learn your voice, it really does become an assistant to you, literally. And so for me, I'm very confident in my ChatGPT and what it does for me and how it sounds and all of that. But again, that's because I've done the work, and I think most people skip that step. So that is a big issue with AI. Um, and then on the other side, I think the biggest issue I've seen and still see, and I think, this is obviously what I do professionally every day. But there we have a major disconnect between why most people, or a percentage of people, and I spoke about this at Mastermind Summit actually, but statistically, 69% of people say that they use social as an opportunity to grow their following, right? That's what they think that they're doing. They're getting on social to grow a following, to create influence. But only 18% of them have actually seen any form of ROI, direct ROI off the social platform. So why is there this humongous gap? And the answer comes down to what I preach every day, which is most of you have a content strategy, almost none of you have a conversion strategy. And that's the difference between what people are currently doing versus what they really should be doing. And yes, AI feeds into that for lots of reasons and in lots of ways. But the reality is most people, even still in 2025, Dave, have a conversion problem. And the reason is because, one, first and foremost, they want engagement, but they're not giving it. And most people don't understand what giving engagement means. And I don't know if you heard, but this gentleman speak, but there was a gentleman that spoke recently at an event that we were both at. And he's standing on stage telling everybody, comment saying things like awesome or this is cool. And in my mind, my blood is boiling and I'm just like, what? Right? Like, absolutely not, because all that does is it looks like a bot, right? It looks like automation, and there's so much of that out there. But the thing about that is engagement. If you want to get it, you have to give it, but there's certain ways to give it that actually create what you want or what the desired outcome is, which is inbound opportunity through social. But my number one question, Dave, and I'll kind of stop it here. My number one question when I ask people, when they call me and they say, Michelle, I'm not getting any ROI off of social, why is that not happening for me? I'll ask them one very poignant question, and it's the only question I have to ask because I already know the answer. But the question is, are you intentionally sending a message to someone that you do not know every day? Are you yourself creating an outbound touch point with someone that you do not know intentionally every single day? And probably 97% of them say no.
Yeah. So, by the way, anybody watching this in our YouTube channel right now, if you are one of those people that is every day, I am reaching out to a person, or even 90% of the days, let us know. Like
Yeah.
I am doing that. Like give us a little comment down below. I think that would be fun. And if we say something that you like throughout this while you're watching it, give us a like. Let us know that like that was good. So by the way, I could just stop right there and focus the rest of this conversation around conversion strategy. I mean, that is something I've obsessed over my entire life and founded Mortgage Coach on the basis of creating conversion. But
Yep.
I also know you've got a book coming out soon, and I want to hear a little bit about your book, The Black Line.
Yep.
What does that mean? Like what does it mean when you say the black line?
Yeah, I think the fastest, simplest way to describe the black line to anybody is if you've ever swam in a pool, you know that there is a black line on the bottom of a pool that it keeps you in line, literally, right? The idea is that is the shortest distance between the one wall to the other wall. And if you just follow it, you'll get to the other side, do a flip turn, turn around and come back and eventually finish whatever, the practice you're doing, race you're doing, whatever it is. I swam for 20 years. I started competing at the age of 5, swam all through college, swam for Rutgers, Division 1. And the thing about that for me is I swam the mile. It was the longest event on the program. Still to this day is the longest event that any female or male can swim in a college, pool setting. Also in the Olympics, right? There is no longer event in a pool than the mile. And the thing about that is, Dave, I spent a lot of time staring at that line. And over the years, it became kind of a silent coach and one of those things that was sort of a promise. If I just stared at it long enough and stayed straight or close to it as I could, I would finish the 30 laps in an Olympic pool or in a short course pool. I'd finish the 66 laps that equated to the duration of the race. And fast forward into my adult life, I document 4 storms that have happened to me personally over the years that I feel like, one, need to be told, and 2, I think other women need, not just women but men for that matter too, but we need a place to feel safe to be able to talk about these things. So I document the 4 storms and how my black line in my personal life is God and being very rooted in faith. Because as I did not grow up in the church, I did not grow up in any one form of religion. My parents chose to allow my sister and I to find our own faith as we wanted to, when we wanted to. And I didn't get baptized until I was 26, and I was knee deep in the middle of my second storm at that point in my life. And, fast forward to getting a little bit older, some things have happened. My storm number 3 happened, and I face planted into faith. Fast forward another few years later, storm number 4 happens for me, and all I have is faith. And so the black line for me, when life is very, very messy and things are designed to throw us off course, whether that's in our careers, whether that's in our marriages, whether that's in our friendships, whatever that is, right? I know you talk a lot about your code, Dave, and I love that concept so much. But for me, the black line in my personal life was my faith. And was I chasing God or was I running away from him? And so I talk a lot about that. But the moral of the black line story is in November of 2024, I had a very traumatic life experience that I'm happy to share if you want me to share it. But when I had this experience, my company was doing very well, had been doing very, very well. But I personally, as Michelle Berman Mikel, was struggling. I was drowning emotionally, professionally. I was at a place where I was overpaying employees. I had too many employees because I was refused to fire anybody because I just love people and I love serving. And long story short, with the mortgage industry being what the mortgage industry was and my inability to say goodbye to people that I loved, I was spending too much money and not making enough money. And then you combine it with the 4th storm that happened in my life, and all hell happened. The floodgates of hell opened in my life. And when I came out of the other side of that 4th storm, I discovered this concept for me, which is that the black line in my professional life has always been my ability to outbound prospect in a relentless way. I am just every single day I wake up and I do not stop. Like I cannot turn my brain off. I cannot do anything until I know for sure that I have done my job, which is sending that one message to someone that I do not know with the intention of creating opportunity for myself through leverage, right? Who are the levers in my life that can create the bridge between someone I already know and someone I don't? So, November 15th of 2024, I went to bed that night in a very black hole, and I woke up November 16th with a massive weight lifted off of me thanks to just the experience of going to sleep and what God had done and was moving in my life and in my body. And the morning of November 16th, I went to work, literally. And I outbound prospected so relentlessly that I had this massive idea. I was like, oh my God, I am the black line. Like I just did exactly what I'm teaching all of these people how to do. And I am now walking the walk again, even though I've walked it many, many times over the years. But I just went through what most people would have not been surprised if I left the industry or quit, and gone back to corporate America or gone back to a 9 to 5. But nobody would have been surprised by that. But I decided that that wasn't going to be my life. And so I relentlessly and religiously outbound prospected every day without fail. And June was the first month in my company's history in almost 11 years that we started the month in the green, which as an entrepreneur, as you know, Dave, that's a big deal when the month hasn't even started and you're already in the green. And July is set to be, if not the biggest, one of the biggest months of my entire career. And only 8 months after, I got to a place where I almost wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make payroll. And that doesn't happen without God's divine intervention, I don't think. But also, more importantly, it doesn't happen unless someone, in this case me, has that burning desire to create change and to not settle for what's happening to us, not let the world dictate our outcomes. So the black line is the shortest distance between A and B as it relates to creating opportunity through social. And also it is the shortest distance between point A and B when life decides to throw you a whole crap ton of lemons.
Wow, that's amazing. Anybody listen to this, you have to be inspired by that. I do believe I really want to spend the rest of this conversation unpacking that because so many more loan officers in America right now are struggling than loan officers who are thriving. And the ones that are thriving, they have figured out their black line. Like they are taking daily actions. They have great daily habits. Um, every human being has some broken habits, some great code, some broken code. But
Mhm.
but let's really unpack that a little bit. I think to get all four storms, we'll make them get the book, guys. Keep an eye out for this book. Make sure you follow this woman on social media. I can assure you, I'm gonna, can you pre-buy the book right now? Can you pre-order
The
it?
pre-order is not officially available yet, but we are super close.
Okay, well, when the
Probably,
pre-order hits,
yeah.
I will be pre-ordering it
Well, thank you.
personally. Even if you offer me a free book, I'm going to pre-order it.
I'll sign it for you, okay?
Okay,
Order it and ship it
I
to
will
me.
take that.
Order
But
and ship it to me, and then I'll
but
ship it back to you.
but let's unpack that storm, and I want everybody listening to try to personalize this because if
Mhm.
you are struggling, I'm just going to assume there's more you could be doing every day, and you probably know what that more is that would get you out of the hole or get you out of the struggle and get you into the thrive. And you just heard from Michelle, she turned it around in 6 months.
Mhm.
And I can tell you right now, I've got clients where let's just say loan officer adoption of a technology, mortgage coach. It's good. They got 20% or 30% of their loan officers using it, but they got a plan. They put a three-step process in action and they go to 70% adoption in a quarter. So you can go from this call, from this video to out of struggle in 3 months, 6 months without question. So what was the storm? Like, put a little more
Yeah.
color around it. And then let's also, I already heard one step was I'm going to call someone new or I'm going to reach out and engage with someone new every day. Let's like storm. And then what were the three things that you did?
Yeah, so the storm was, and I'm very comfortable sharing this now, wasn't back then, but my husband and I have been trying to have baby number two for quite some time. We have an amazing, very beautiful, almost 4-year-old. His name is Knox, and he is truly like the joy of our lives. And anybody that has ever met him, he radiates sunshine. Like he just really is that. He also has platinum blonde hair, so he certainly is fun to look at. But we had been trying to have baby number two, and long story short, it took a long time. Finally found out we were pregnant after 14 months of trying, and we ended up going through almost 8 weeks of pure hell. The first baby appointment we had where we were supposed to be hearing baby's heartbeat, there was no heartbeat, so I was rushed to the emergency room on a Saturday. We live in Clarksville, Tennessee, so we were very close to Fort Campbell and the military hospital on base. My husband is prior military, prior special forces, and so we had access to the VA hospital on base, which was amazing, and we're very lucky for that. But we ended up spending the entire Saturday in the hospital, all kinds of blood tests, all kinds of ultrasounds, everything you could possibly imagine. Walked out of the hospital with a little bit of hope and a little bit of, okay, we might be okay. We might be all right. It's probably just a little bit early. And, the period date was a little bit potentially off because I hadn't really been tracking. So the doctors were hopeful. Over the next 6 to 8 weeks, I had my blood drawn probably 24 times. I had been in and out of doctor's offices more times than I could even like to recall. And there was one appointment that my husband came with me to. The doctor was so blatantly disingenuous that we were mortified, right? Like just so cold and so inconsiderate to the mental health that I was experiencing, or the issues mental health wise that I was trying to overcome. And faith is amazing, right, for this, because that's really all you have in that moment. But my faith was being tested here because this woman was a disaster, right? Like just so disrespectful to a young female that was clearly going through it. Fast forward to the morning of November 12th, I think it was. We went and got my blood tested one more time, and my son had to come with me because logistically my husband was still working full time at the time. So my son was sitting in the chair with me at the blood lab office where the lady was sticking a needle in my arm for the 25th time. And I have a very big tattoo on one arm, and most doctors shy away from that arm, but my other arm was super purple and bruised from having so many blood tests. So she decided to try my tattoo arm, and I immediately started crying, not like outwardly like loud crying, but just like tears coming out of my eyes. And my son was holding my hand, and my son stops the doctor, and my son is only 3.5 at this time, right? My son looks at the doctor and says, "You're hurting my mommy. You need to stop." And it was right there in that moment that I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. If this baby is going to live, this baby's going to live, right? And if not, it's okay. We're going to let it go. No, the morning of November 15th, we found out that baby was not going to make it. I'm so sorry, Dave. I'm going to cry. We found out that we lost baby, and it was really, really, really hard. When you've prayed so hard to have another baby and you were so excited to bring a new life into this world, and you have some glimmers of hope throughout that journey, and then to hear a doctor tell you that it wasn't going to happen, there's no worse feeling on the planet, honestly. And the morning of November 16th, one of my best friends calls me, Cindy Ertman, and she says, "Michelle, you're going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And you have to get back to who you are and be the person that I know you are." And another mutual friend, Renee Rodriguez's wife, Maddie, I talked to her on the phone every single day throughout all of this. She's had several miscarriages herself, and just having someone by your side through all of that was instrumental. But the morning of November 16th, I get this phone call from Cindy. And then that afternoon, we decide to put the ultrasound pictures away of our unborn baby into the baby box that my son's stuff is in. My son's name is Knox, but we have a big box of all of his stuff, and we decided to put baby number two's ultrasounds in the box with Knox's and just kind of say goodbye. And my son walks into the room. I'm sitting on the floor in my son's bedroom, and Knox walks in and he says, "Mommy, why are you crying? I love you so much." And it was right there in that moment. I said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to cry anymore. I'm not going to feel bad for what's happening to me anymore, because I'm going to walk by faith, and I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'm just going to fucking figure it out. And so I went back and I made a commitment to myself that Monday morning, so Friday, obviously going into the weekend, I wasn't going to prospect over the weekend. Monday morning, I wake up and I am freaking relentless, Dave. Like, I have never prospected like I prospected the week of November 17th of 2024. And the rest is really history. But I woke up every single day and I said, I am sending a message to someone that I do not know. I am shooting my shot. I am creating opportunity for myself. And I'm not going to sit here and let what's happening to me dictate my bank account. I'm not going to sit here and let what's happening to the mortgage industry or to the real estate industry or to the housing industry, whatever it is, dictate my life. And we had a goal over the Christmas holiday to retire my husband from corporate Army life by the end of 2025. We're currently in July of 2025. And our goal was by December. That was what we had written down and talked about as a family financially. That's where we felt like we were going to be safe to do so. And what happened between November, December, and January, and really into February and on, I looked at my husband and I said, just quit now. We're good. And he quit corporate army life in May. So his very last day of corporate life in the military, or for the military, I should say, was May 1st of 2025. And what is that? 8 months ahead of schedule. And that's because of what I did, despite what I was facing.
Wow. What a incredibly, inspiring, heart-wrenching story. Thank your husband for his service. Thank your family for his service. And then I just want everybody, to think, like to say, oh, I don't have time, uh, which is a thing that we tell ourselves, that you always have time and to wait. But you could have easily said, oh, I'm going to wait until I recover. Because when a woman goes through a miscarriage like that, like it's not only mental, I mean, it's physical.
Yeah.
And you didn't wait. Like you just like through, the most extreme emotional pain, sounds like, of your life, you decided to get after it. You made a commitment, and here we are, you're killing it. So now you have a lot of mortgage professionals that are clients. And I know part of your strategies, I've heard you use the term multiple times, social selling.
Yep.
And you talked about conversion. Obviously, one action is make a call. Well, first of all, I don't want to say it's a call, or reach out every
That's the
day
best.
to someone new. What is like a three-step plan for anyone listening to this to say, you know what, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to pivot from where I'm at to where I need to be.
Yep.
I'm going to create a black line
Yep.
and talk to loan officers. What do they need to do? What's the Michelle Berman Mikel black line strategy?
Well, first of all, you're gonna have to buy the book and read all of that so that you can hear all of the detail. No, I'm just messing. But
No, you're
the
not messing. It's okay to,
uh,
like,
it is
throw a
true.
little
Like you
script.
do
Yeah.
need to buy the book because you'll hear all about it and get to read about it. But the answer to that is the black line approach, which is the concept taught in my program, Berman or Beyond the Method, which is obviously what the black line book itself is a reflection of. The answer to that is what is your black line? You have to answer that for yourself. But for me, it was one single message every single day to somebody that I did not know. But here's the key, Dave, and I think that this is where people really need to pay attention. The key is doing it through leverage and creating leverage for yourself, right? So, how do we do that? The answer is we all know people that have other people that we don't know, right? So, who are the levers in your life that you could use or have relationships with that you could leverage, quote unquote, or name drop to create a bridge between them and someone that you don't? Now, there's a framework around how to send that message and what that message should sound like. But more importantly, the structure is one daily action in one of three categories for yourself. So I'm going to use myself as an example here. Dave, you're probably very similar to me in this sense. And then we can talk about the loan officer specific example. But one daily action for me is sending a message to someone that I do not know through leverage with the intention of getting one of three things. One of those three things for me, podcasting. It's a huge opportunity for me to go one to many, to get my voice out, to get my name out, also for people to hear how I talk, which is very important, I think, especially in a world of static imagery everywhere, right? Hearing, and you know this, like the power of video, all that stuff, right? So podcasting is very, very important for me and for my company and for how I create business for myself. Number two is webinars. I do a ton of them, probably 4 or 5 a month. I love them, right? Because one, I get to teach, and I love teaching. But two, it also keeps me home where I get to be a mom and a wife, and that's important to me. And then number three is in-person speaking opportunities. So Dave, when I met you, actually, it was during COVID on Clubhouse was when I first heard the name Dave Savage. I think most of us, spent a lot of time on Clubhouse during those years. But that's when I first started speaking, was actually in 2022. And it became a very good and important way for me to get my name out, but I didn't know how to speak back then. I had to learn, right? Hence hiring my coach, Renee. But I think for me, that was my number three. So one daily action, sending one message to someone that you do not know every single day for 365 days, doing it through leverage with the intention of getting one of three things, which is podcast, webinar, or in-person speaking gig. Now, for a loan officer, right? Yours is you got to leverage other people, right? Do you have a realtor that's using social really well? Can you leverage them to create a relationship with another realtor, right? How can you go about doing that? Now, I have a mortgage client right now who I love her to death. Her husband owns a granite company, right? Does granite installations. She's like, is he really a lever? Like, is that what you're talking about? And I'm like, 1000%. What do you mean? Right. So how do you create levers that can help you tap into a sphere of influence? Right. So, for a mortgage professional, likely it's someone that you know that owns a company, someone that you know that owns a business of some kind, even if it's a spouse or a client or something. And then also the other opportunities for you are realtor relationships, vendor partnerships, divorce attorneys, CPAs, all of that. And then one big one that's been really popular for a lot of my clients is doing one-to-many speaking opportunities, which you and I got to hear about with Cindy last week at Mastermind Summit. But doing one-to-many speaking opportunities in offices, not just for realtors, but even in like a lunch meet and greet type for first-time home buyers in like a Buffalo Wild Wings or like that type of an environment. And so you reach out to someone or the events manager of a certain location and you try to create a one-to-many opportunity for yourself where they collaborate with you. It's been a really popular one. People are doing really well with it. But again, every person, whether that's me or you, Dave, or whether that's a loan officer listening to this, has to decide what are those three things, four things, five things, right? I have three. Some people might have four or five. But what are those three things that one daily act is designed to create? And then you live in that space. And I have a tracker for how we track that, what you do on each day. But I know we're running out of time, so I just want to be respectful of that. But how we track this and how we monetize it, the way I can give you the analogy or symbolism is imagine like a pool with lane lines, right? You have all these different lanes. The lane lines are designed to be the days of your week. So on Monday, we're only focused on this category. Tuesday, we're only focused on this category. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so that we avoid shiny object syndrome. We avoid the, oh my God, I've been on Instagram scrolling and I have no idea what I've been doing for 2.5 hours, which we've all fallen victim to. So my black line approach is staying in your lane and following the black line. And that's really what the book is. And that's really what the tie into social and how you outbound prospect through social really is.
Well, so much gold. I mean, we could go forever. It's not about the time. It's about, hey, we do need to get people to buy your book, so we want to give it
Yeah.
all away. And at the same time, by the way, what is the best place for people to follow you if they want to like learn more about the beyond the method strategy and they want to, the book's not for pre-sale, so we can't take them to Amazon. Of course, who
Yes.
knows when you're
Yes.
watching this? You know,
Yes.
you might be watching this, the book is up. But what are the best ways? Someone's listening, they want to follow you, they want to get the book. What do they do?
Yeah, the best way is to follow me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Those are my two big platforms that I spend the most time on. Instagram is Berman Media Social. LinkedIn, you just type in my full name, Michelle Berman Mikel, and you'll find me real easy. The book will be available for sale mid-August. So depending on when you're listening to this, again, we're really, really close. And I have a big announcement later this afternoon that I'm excited about.
I'm excited about that too. Of course, by the time you're watching this on YouTube, she will have already announced who is the forward in her book. It's
Yes.
going to be someone that she's incredibly excited about and someone that is exciting. Um, wow, man, this has been really good. I mean, your story was heart-wrenching, but you know how you took that challenge and how you turned it into fuel and how you turned it into action was really motivating. At the most recent Mastermind Summit, I think most of the people that I've interviewed or that I know that are the most successful, they turned adversity into fuel. But Stephanie Johnston was like I spoke, gave a keynote, then she jumped on stage. She shared how she had her child, and 3 months later she found out that she had cancer. And I mean, imagine, you know, you're a new mom, you find out that you have cancer, you're fighting for your life, getting chemo, and she still maintained a, 70 million in production, and the following year did 100 million. I mean, just turned adversity into action. You know, right after her, you had the nerd, you know, Denise Donahue, and she shared, you know, adversity that she went through and how she turned that into something positive. So my hope is anyone listening to this is it's how do we turn our adversity into fuel, those dark moments into sunshine. Um, any closing thoughts? Anything you want to make sure gets shared before we run out of time?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I'll tell you guys is, social selling, which is a kind of an overused phrase. I really want people to hear that there's this one very important way of going about discussing this. And I think it's the difference between social media coaching and social media prospecting, or having a social media prospecting coach. And I think that's the really big shift. So I truly believe that the world is shifting away from this focus of virality and really more focused on, am I creating value that then creates opportunity for myself? And so I think that's the biggest thing. But I will say outbound prospecting really is the black line of modern sales. So if you understand how to outbound prospect versus reacting, right, waiting for someone to come to you, you have to turn the table on social and be the one to outbound yourself. Now you can certainly do it wrong, hire a coach, but more importantly, doing it. You have to do it, right? So I'll say that sentence again, but social media prospecting is the black line of modern sales, and if you're not doing it, you need to figure out how to. And if you don't know what your black line is, you got to find it.
So let's use an example. And I don't remember if it was when we were prepping or you said this during the interview. I can't remember because we talked for a little bit beforehand, but you talked about like commenting, and you were saying that, hey, there's people that are just, by the way, I'm one of them many times where I just give a fist bump or, put a word as a comment, but that's an out about activity, right? Commenting on a post. What
That
are
is
what's the right way and what's the wrong way to
so
be
there's
a social prospector?
Yeah, there's two different ways to outbound prospect. One is one-to-one, which means you're sending an individual message to someone intentionally. That's a one-to-one. The only person seeing it is them. One-to-many is I call it breadcrumbing in my world. That's what I call it in my program. That's what I talk about in the book. But breadcrumbing is where you're one-to-many. So you're commenting on feed content designed to get eyeballs onto your page, to design to grow your following, right? That's what people really want at the end of the day. But most people do it very, very wrong, where they just go on a follow spree, follow, 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 hope everybody follows them back. Don't do that. But also when you're commenting things like awesome and that's it, right? Or great video, exclamation point. We have to remember that we do live in a world full of AI. We do live in a world full of bots and things. And still to this day, when I got into the social media space in 2014, bots were rampant everywhere. How many people do you know, Dave, that bought fake followers? Like hundreds, right? Thousands of people that were doing it back then. And people are still doing it today. But the problem is, if that's how you're leaving a comment, or that's how you're commenting on other people's content, you are essentially telling other people that you don't care enough to read my content fully. You don't care enough to read my full caption. And most likely you're probably a bot, right? Because those are the types of comments or messages or things that people are leaving on other people's content that you can plug into these Autobots that will then do that for you. And so the difference between a one full sentence reply or comment as opposed to an awesome video or this was great exclamation point is, you've now captured mind share or market share, and most importantly, you've captured my attention, right? And attention is the true currency, because if you can't get it, you're not going to get anywhere. So I talk a lot about indifference. I talk a lot about what that means, and we could go on and on and on. We need like 5 hours, Dave. But the reality is those comments essentially lump you into this world of, I'm really just here to try to grow and I'm a bot kind of, versus, hey, I'm this real person. I'm really reading your caption. I'm listening to your video. I'm very intentionally showing up here to support you. And it makes a big difference also, because if you come, Dave, and you see me comment on, someone else's post, like Katie Shive, right? You see me comment on her post with a really intentional, detailed, thoughtful comment. The first thing likely in your mind, Dave, is, well, Michelle must actually really know Katie. How do I not know Michelle? Because I have a relationship with Katie too, right? So it sort of creates this natural bridge between me and you, if we don't know each other, that otherwise wouldn't have been there. And that's how we grow, right? That's how we wake up on LinkedIn and we're like, oh my God, I have 17 new connections. Who are these people, right? That's how that happens. But it doesn't happen if you half-ass it.
Yeah, and I during the walk and talk between Kevin Watson, one of your customers, and Brian Covey,
Mhm.
we were talking about, social prospecting and commenting, and I was just telling him like, you know, don't either know what to say. I don't have the time. I know I should be having bigger thoughts. And Brian Covey's like, voice to text. Just go to it, talk to it, give it a look before you do it. Anyways, I have started, I mean, I've always used voice to text quite a bit, but
Yep.
now that that's how I do all my comments. I've personally gotten a lot better at it. I'm doing it more, and I think I'm showing up a little bit better. So, anyways, It's been an awesome conversation. It was great getting to know you better. Thank you for sharing your just heart-wrenching story. And congratulations on turning that into a book. More impact. Can't wait to read your book and really, really appreciate you, Michelle.
I appreciate you, Dave. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So if you got value from this, give it a like. If you have not started sharing our YouTube channel or subscribing, make sure you subscribe today. Make sure you follow savageinsights.com. Whoever I'm interviewing next will be at the very top. And then if you look a few links down below, there'll be a mobile club, Savage Insider Club. Make sure you get in that club because I send out 2 or 3 texts a week that turn loan officers into mortgage advisors. So take care, everybody. Hope you got value.